This is what it is.
Yeah, lacrosse. All that is official sport of Canada. The more you know. You're going to learn that and more and about some golf tonight here at Stokastic, because this is PGA DFS Live Before Lock presented by Prize Picks. The season is winding down. The FedEx Cup is winding down. The field is shrinking. We are inside the top 70 now, and we've got a lot to break down here at the BMW Championship. I am Ben Rasa. That is Geoff Ulrich. We are ready to go. Before the show, I'm just going to get right to it. You were outside exercising in temperature that I don't know because I don't live in Canada. How you feeling, sir?
I mean, I'm feeling good. Like I said, I mean, last week we got accosted by my kids during the show, and this week, you might get a Ben soliloquy if I just hit the floor or something.
Yeah, heat stroke.
But we're good for now. I mean, look, if Sepp Straka and Will Zalatoris can go at it for like an extra couple playoff holes and survive, I can survive. So.
All right. I'm glad you talked about that because, we've got 70 golfers. We're going to get to all of them, obviously. We've got plenty of time. Chat, I see you. Are you ready to rock tonight? I hope you guys are. Hit that like button. Let's build it up. I got to ask you, though. I'm assuming you did see the playoff, and even if you didn't, I'm sure you're aware of what was going on. A, were you rooting for Zalatoris like everybody else? And then B, did you think he was seriously considering hitting that shot?
Okay, so first of all, I got a good story about this because I was on vacation like last week out in the boonies of Saskatchewan at a beautiful lake. But I came in and I made the point. I said, I did have my phone. We get reception up there. And I saw like this thing's going to a playoff or it's really close and Zalatoris is in the lead. And I did jump on Zalatoris during after his second round because my guys sucked. So I actually added Mullinax too. Mullinax was my big hope for a while, but I got Zalatoris at 22-1. It was his same number. And I'm like, he's 5 shots back at JJ Spawn. Like, who cares? It's JJ Spawn, So I was interested. I went back and things just got wilder and wilder, man. I was like, expecting to be gone for half an hour and I was gone for like 2 hours. My wife was like putting up a search party. So, yeah, it was crazy. Like and to answer your question, I really thought he was going to hit the shot.
So did I. And I wanted him to, and he was going to lose. If he did that, he was going to lose 100%.
Yeah, I think it, like looking at it, you could tell it had very little chance of clearing that tough. No. But like, I get the temptation because you're so close to the hole and all you have to do is literally advance it like 5 inches and get it on the rough and you have won the tournament. Like it's such a simple task, but there was so much disaster.
So I'll say this. I was
praying he hit it. I was like, I wanted him to hit it, even though I had money on him. And I knew
I wanted him to hit it too.
Yeah.
And we'll get to the weather and withdrawals in just a second. But my final 2 points on last week to tie it in are 1, I actually believe he would have hit it if Straka hit the green. When Straka went into the bunker on the drop, I think it kind of forced him to, because like, then what are you doing? Like, you already have the advantage. Two, the more important point, I don't really understand how Straka went in the water after seeing that. That seems truly unbelievable. Straka also took a penalty on the hole before when I thought he could have chipped up the fairway. A lot of mystery questions that I have.
The Sepp Straka, like, it's almost just like buried under the Will Zalatoris win. Like, what happened? He hit the same hook 2 shots in a row.
Yeah.
Like you said, like, get your body in the water if you have to. Submerge yourself up to your neck, but chip the ball 50 yards in front so you have an easier shot. Like, he didn't even consider it. He's just like, no, I took my shoe off. I don't want to get wet. Like, but then to his credit, he had like a 200-yard shot of 5 feet. Everything about that playoff was so ridiculous. And you're exactly right. Like, Zalatoris definitely made the correct move. I mean, once Straka went in the bunker, like, your worst case scenario is you're tied. And, Straka sinks his putt and you miss yours. Big deal. He's not playing that well. He's clearly rattled. You're probably going to beat him anyways. So it was the correct move. But yeah, if he had hit the green on that second shot, I think you see Zalatoris play it. I absolutely agree.
God, I wish that happened. But you know what? We didn't see that. We turned the page, and of course, we were down to the top 70, and the most expensive player withdrew. So there are 69 golfers without Cam Smith. There's really not a ton to get into in terms of the weather or the withdrawals. Cam Smith is not playing. Everybody else is playing. I want to kind of incorporate the course. I talked about this yesterday with Josh Engelman. It's new. We don't really know. So what do you do? Because with the smaller field, I don't think there's as pronounced in terms of like a tee time stack. I'm not really worried about that, to be honest. But I want to ask you about Wilmington Country Club. What are your thoughts on this? Do you like the fact that we have really no data?
Not really. I mean, I like to have the course history and see things and get a little bit more, because things can always change. Like, greens can just, like, maybe these greens just get so crusty and they're just terrible or something like that. Or maybe, like the rough is just like 10 times thicker than everybody thinks or something like that. I think I will say this. I think that this course is going to play fairly straightforward. Like, it could just be another score fest like we saw in Caves Valley last year. I don't think there's anything crazy unique about it. There's some dog legs worked in. There's a little bit of water. So I don't really mind it. But at the same time, we're kind of still guessing a little bit about who it favors. We got to read like the player quotes and something like that. I read Zalatoris thinks it's like the best course ever. So of course, like, I think he called it the most ideal course for him or something like that. So, I mean, you take that for what it is, but it's not a huge deal. I mean, it does add a little bit of intrigue, but I just don't think that this course is that intriguing either. I think it's going to favor long drivers of the golf ball. And I think that's going to lead to some big boys putting up some really low scores this week.
So, yeah, I'm going to split the difference. I actually like when we don't know, because I think you can anticipate. And if you do get something right, particularly if it's contrarian, you're way ahead of the game. The problem is this specific course, I think, doesn't have a lot of variance in it where it's like, there might be this thing. Like, no, there's not. These are big greens. You're going to be able to be aggressive. And that's going to be that. And it's just going to be a degree of how extreme the scores are. It could play like comically easy, or it could be somewhat challenging. I don't see it playing really hard. There's not like crazy water or anything. I think it's pretty straightforward. And for that reason, I'm not overly excited about the course. I think, honestly, ironically, last year's course is a pretty good comp for it.
Yeah, I think last year's course is a good comp for it. I know, like, doing research, it's a Robert Trent Jones. So Firestone Country Club is another one that came up, but that typically played pretty hard.
So long too. Like, that seems extreme.
Yeah. And like, it's got some visual comparisons, but I don't know how much, like, it's not going to play that tough. I don't think it's going to be like it's going to be like the amateur version of Firestone Country Club, I think. So I think we're definitely in agreement about the course, regardless of how you're looking at it or if you like that or not. I just like courses too. I think that's the main thing. I just like courses too. They give us a little bit of variance, like, kind of like last week, like I like TPC South, and that's a great course, I think. So it should be interesting. But one thing for sure, I think that, the big drivers are going to they're going to have an advantage. And I think that you'll see some big drivers put up some real scores this week.
It's a perfect segue into Prize Picks, who is sponsoring the show. We've talked about them a lot on the show. If you haven't been over there, prizepicks.com, Download in the App Store as well. And when you do it and you sign up, why not get the first match deposit bonus up to $100 with the promo code AWESEMO? You're going to be projecting over or under certain skill sets. And as you just mentioned, can we take maybe the lack of course knowledge to our advantage there and say, okay, birdies, strokes, birdies are better matchups, all the categories that Prize Picks has. I think there's a real opportunity to possibly attack them. And of course, you string 2 or 3 together, you're going to get that multiplier. I actually like that this week for if it plays very, very easy.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when I was doing Prize Picks research like earlier today and putting together like the video, there's some tasty matchups like there always is, but agreed, like on the birdies or better side, I think this is almost a week where you can maybe start attacking with some of the big guys who are coming in with solid form, and maybe even look to like things like guys who get off to good starts for round one and put together some, like maybe even like, like a round of parlays around like just a small player pool, I think, and hit the birdies or better or the strokes under and really get aggressive here. Cause there's nothing in the weather that's going to turn us off. The players have talked about this course being straightforward. Cantlay's like, yeah, you hit it long, you hit it straight. It's simple. I think you go for like the low scores in round one.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, that's the beauty of a course like this. If we get it right, you're going to be at such an advantage when you're stringing those guys together. And it might just be where, mid 60s is a decent round, but nothing crazy. And that's the beauty of Prize Picks. We're talking about them, and you've got the big names on there. We see Rory and Rahm and those types. And let's start with them. Let's get into rank them. Let's talk about these guys. Of course, Cam Smith is gone, so Rory does lead us off. And how do you rank them? We've got Rory, we've got Rahm, and then we've got, I'm not going to call him the forgotten man, but form-wise, he might as well be in Justin Thomas, he played better last week, but it still wasn't great. Ownership is actually flat between the three, so you're almost choosing best available in some ways. How do you rank Rory versus Rahm versus JT?
Yeah, so for me, I really like what Rahm did last week. Obviously, didn't come through for us and grab the outright, but I does have that feeling of maybe we were just a week too early.
Yep.
Dominating off the tee. He's going to be in so many good spots here off the tee, just to absolutely attack this. And you look at what Rahm has done, and like people, the around the green hasn't been great. I don't think that's going to matter this week with the big greens, so that's good. The approach game is more consistent on the weekend. And I think the big thing with Rahm too is like his putter has shown some tendencies to it's picked up a little bit in spots over the last couple months. It's not consistent, but Rahm really never is that consistent with the putter anyways. But you switch him to bent grass greens here. I like the spot too much for him not to rank him one. And I'll take JT. I'll ride the momentum of the playoffs here. It's nothing against Rory. The season wise, you take Rory's season over these two guys for sure. But, Rory just feels like maybe just there's too big a piece of him left in those majors. It's just a narrative thing. JT, we've seen go low before. We've seen him win this event at like 25 under. I can't remember the name of that course, but there's another good comparable. The BMW, I think 2019. What's the name of that course?
Medina?
Yes, Medina. So I Rahm, JT, Rory for me. That's the way I'm ranking them.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, Rory, I don't know what to really make of it. He was pretty adamant, like hadn't touched a club. His off the tee game was problematic. That never happens. I'm not concerned, to be honest. I definitely have Rahm 1. I had Rahm 1 last week. I bet Rahm. I wheeled Rahm, and I actually caught a piece of it. Luckily, as he surged, I didn't cash it outright. But I think Rahm is trending upward. Now he gets his preferred surface, and everything else looks good. That was vintage Rahm, really. He dominated off the tee. He played really well, and I'm pretty happy with it. I don't know what to really do with JT. If there was an ownership discount, I would have him too, but there isn't. So I'm just going to go pretty generic. I'm going to go Rahm over Rory over JT. But I guess my question, and we're going to move down in a second, I think it's very feasible to actually have two of these guys in the same lineup.
Oh, yeah. No, it's super feasible this week, like to the point where it's almost like that's what how I think a lot of people are going to be starting. Well, not with those three in particular, but maybe like 3 of the top 6 kind of things. So yeah, absolutely. If you want to play, if you really like Rahm and you think like the ownership's coming down lower on Rory, although I don't think it is, or you want to play Rahm and JT, which I actually really like, you can do it because it's it's a 68 man, no cut event. And we don't have like the Sean Norris's filling out the last 5 spots. We've got playable players down there, good players, some players who I think could even be in for a good bounce back, players who need big weeks. So it's one where, you can get as crazy as you want in terms of build.
Yeah, WGC-esque, but no Sunshine Tour randos at the bottom, and that is true. Clearly, the more reasonable approach, not that that's crazy, but is going to pick one of those 3 and probably pair them with one of the 9K guys, the Patrick Cantlays, the Scotty Schefflers, the Tony Finau, who's playing out of his mind. Ownership, again, looking at Stokastic, looking at what we've got behind the paywall, very flat. All these guys between 15 and 20%. So how do you rank kind of that next batch of Cantlay and Scheffler and Finau?
Yeah, so like for me, I mean, obviously we like all these guys. Like Finau is playing great. Scheffler coming off the bad week, and the putter suddenly giving him issues, which is kind of interesting. And then Cantlay, who, number 1 in strokes gained putting on bent grass greens. I don't again, like I'm not necessarily like crossing any one of these guys off. I think from a strategy standpoint, like Cantlay to me is the guy who's going to get some heat. Just a feeling. I think Cantlay is a guy who could just come in and just be like one of the most popular players, and people just be like, oh, everyone played Cantlay in this range. I actually like Scheffler for a bounce back here. I think he's kind of like the PGA Tour poster boy. Again, he's not really doing much wrong. He just had a bad week with the putter. And it's not like we're very far removed from Scotty Scheffler almost winning like the second major or his second major of the year at the US Open. I like Scheffler for a bounce back here. What to do with Tony Finau? I'm going to put Cantlay second, and it's a close second. And really, I just like Scheffler because I think that you'll get better leverage on the field. I think that the ownership will go to Cantlay with a little bit of Finau. So I'll go Scheffler, Cantlay, Finau. I don't even know how I can rank Tony Finau third in any like ranking at this point, but I'm going to do it. So
I am too. And it's mostly just because, and I tend to do this.
He's paired with Scheffler and Cantlay. Like these are like really good players.
Yeah, it's brutal. And it's really that Tony Finau's a great player, but he's also at the height of his salary and popularity right now. Like Tony Finau off a couple wins and a 5th, a lot of the room has been negated. Whereas in some, Scotty Scheffler would have been 11K if this tournament was held a month ago. There's no doubt. And Tony Finau would be 8,500 and people probably wouldn't have played him. So just the pendulum swings. I try to be reactive. Ownership being flat is what does it. If one of these guys was 6%, I'd play him blindly in a non-cut. I think the game theory overtakes it. I go to Scheffler. Cantlay is interesting to me just because I think that there will be people who are like, oh, well, even if Caves Valley is a comp and he won last year, don't forget, I'm literally not exaggerating. He gained 14 and a half strokes putting. The
sickest thing ever.
I mean, that's ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen someone do that. So
no, I think Kevin Na was the only. I think Kevin Na owns the record. I'm pretty sure, and I think it was at the Shriners one year. But that's the only comparable. Cantlay was just outright, just out of his mind with that club at this event last year.
Stupid, just dumb. But there, you're going to have 2 different options in terms of lineup construction. Clearly, you could take one of the first 3 and one of the second 3 easily. You also could pair all 3 of the guys we just talked about up. You would have a little under 7,000 for the remaining 3. That's doable. I don't think that's my preferred build, but I wanted to throw it out there as we loop in kind of the next batch. Will Z is in between the first trios that we've named. Morikawa and Xander are also in this range. They're the other big names. Do you ride the Will Z heater? I thought that Morikawa really represented himself well last week, and I think if it's an iron competition, he's in a great spot. And then Xander is just Xander, and I honestly don't even know what to say about him.
Yeah. So this one's a little bit more simple. Like, and this kind of gets to me why I'm not like hyper, like you have like hyper bullish on like Cantlay or even Scheffler. I mean, it's just you have Morikawa at 9,400. Yeah. I mean, he's $500 cheaper than Cantlay. He's coming off a good week. I don't even mind like if the course plays a little bit easier. been really accurate off the tee lately too. So he's just going to put himself in a ton of positions to attack these greens. I like Morikawa to me is the clear number one here. You know, I get why people like Will Zalatoris. Obviously, I mean, we all like him, but I don't know. Like I just, I'm not going to rank him in front of Morikawa here. So as far as Xander goes, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know what he's going to do week to week. Like he could be great. He could show up and just start gaining like massive strokes on approach again, or he could just like not do that and be just okay with the putter and finish like, T40, it feels like. So a lot of range for Xander. I think Will Z is way safer. So I go Morikawa, Zalatoris and Xander. And, I mean, again, like this goes to a bigger thing. I guess maybe we should just talk about this. I don't really think that like betting Zalatoris last week was like that great a bet. Like at the same time, I respect the people who were on Zalatoris from the start of the year and stuck with it and just said, who cares about the number here? He's playing great. He's 22-1. And I don't think it was that great a bet because you had guys like Morikawa at 30-1. So I'm not going to say what's that.
That's who I bet last week.
Morikawa, and that's what I did too. And like luckily enough, people tweeted at me. They're like, "You're an idiot for not bet that I like got a piece of them." But I'm not taking any credit for it. I mean, I came on the show and said the same thing you did. But I think the same thing bears out here. There's better players under Zalatoris. There is. I like Zalatoris. He's really good. He deserves to be in this class of players. It's just he's 10,000 now, and Morikawa is 9,400.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it mirrors Tony Finau, who has been so close so many times, and he starts winning. Tony Finau is a great player. Is he as good as Scotty Scheffler and Xander and Cantlay at the same ownership where you're choosing best available? If you gave me a head-to-head for this week, I would take those guys over Finau. I just would. And I think that's how I feel about Will's. Like, Will Z is a little different in the sense Morikawa is cheaper. He allows for upgrades. Irons check out around the green. Him and Hovland, who we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
If you remove around the green, I stack them up basically against anyone out there. That is what holds them back. And I don't think that will expose them this week.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I really like Morikawa this week. I mean, that's the other thing that this boils down to. Like, I mean, Morikawa is like top play for me, if not like just in terms of where he's at in the structure, how he's coming in, and the setup. Again, it's like, and really what you're seeing in golf right now too is some of these guys are just so close that as soon as someone starts clicking with the putter, they take that step up, right? Like Finau did it. Xander did it for a bit. Scheffler did it. Like all these guys just seem to be taking turns. They're all extremely high end at everything. So getting too attached to one guy and then riding the wave down will kind of hurt as well. So
no doubt. And that's been my kind of love-hate relationship with this PGA Tour season is like, I've been so close, like Tony Finau. I bet him to win the Open. I was right there with him. Then he rips off a couple, then I jumped on Chef. It's just been a lot of ebbs and flows in the season where guys are having these like sun runs for a month. And then when they're not, they're perpetually overpriced.
Yeah. And then they kill some of the value too. Like when Finau wins at Detroit and Minnesota, like there's your 30-1 guy who's playing well there too. Maybe he's toast because Finau is like, in God mode. So yeah, it's been a weird year for that. Definitely one of the weirdest with all these like multiple winners.
Yeah. Last rank 'em, kind of going down a little bit to our boy Tom Kim and some of the mid-range options. You've got Jordan Spieth at a price we haven't seen him in quite a bit, 8,800. Cam Young sub 9K and Tom Kim right above them at 9,000. What a world we've got there. Ownership is starting to dissipate. Kim and Spieth right now are two of the only guys that are hovering around 10%, while everyone else is north of that number. Cam Young's projected double the ownership of those guys. Does that rank him lower, or do you like him over the other two?
Yeah. So, I mean, this course should just set up beautifully for Cam Young from like an off the tee perspective, obviously. But again, like we've got the ownership creeping up here. I mean, like top 5 projected on Stokastic, and again, can't recommend enough like using those to your advantage. Whereas our other two guys here, Spieth and Tom Kim, I mean, finally, like, people are starting to cool on Tom Kim a bit. And maybe it's just because, obviously we're in the playoffs and it's an elite field and he's priced up with Hovland now. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't, one thing I really, and I'll make a stance here. Like, I don't want to play any of these guys who are going to live. Like, I just don't. I mean, I feel like they're just checked out.
Did Tiger lay down the law though? Is he going?
Oh, that's a good point. I mean, maybe did he talk Cam Young out of it? I mean,
I'm not going to play, but I heard, and what do I know, that Cam Young was in that meeting.
Okay. I mean, see, this is the PGA this year is just, it's all over the place.
Banana land.
I think you have to give the edge to Cam Young, like, just from a pure form perspective. I mean, the guy's just been an insane producer, right? So it's really just comes down to ownership. Do you want to take a dive on a top 5% or top 5 owned Cam Young? I don't know. I mean, I don't really have anything to say about Spieth other than I'm probably not going to play him. I understand the leverage perspective. Spieth could light it up at any point. I think the guy I would pivot to here is Kim. I'll just rank them: Young, Kim, Spieth, and make it simple. I'm not going to get anything fancy, but I think Young is still an interesting fade candidate. I clearly haven't decided exactly. At the start of the week, I was like, I'm just going to bet Cam Young. And then I haven't bet him yet. And I still haven't made a decision on this guy. So
I'm honestly decently in the same boat. And it's funny because Cam Young's a guy that I've gotten right in spots. I thought that there was a great bounce back spot at the Open because it was going to play a lot easier. And he's someone that, when we really allow him to destroy off the tee, he will, like, his off the tee numbers. It's early, but like, they're Rory, he's on a different tier of just dismantling off the tee. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So
you're going to look to that. And if you think off the tee can separate here, I mean, what an easy pairing with guys like Rahm, guys like Hovland, even Finau, honestly, even Fitzy, who's just like automatic off the tee. And I want to give a shout out in chat to Mark Green, who said this, and it's true. Like, Fitzy also did come in the top 5 last week. And nobody is talking about that. And it's true. Like, I barely even noticed him up there. He played well once again. Fitzy's having a great year and he's quietly still up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Fitzpatrick and he's still he's gonna have some ownership this week too. The other thing about this range is I've completely forgot, but like, I just want to play Sanjay M in this range. So another guy who's just killing it off the tee. And, I think that, like, his putter has been really, really solid last few events. So for me, again, like, I don't mind going like Sanjay and Young or something like that, but I think Tom Kim and Spieth will probably be guys I fade with the rest of the field this week.
I'm more with the good thing about Spieth. I have a little interest there and I don't need a ton. So if he popped up on a lineup, so be it. It's mostly just he can always go nuts and just like drain so many putts, and maybe short game's a little more important. Ideally, though, when I think about how this course plays, I don't imagine like Jordan Spieth's game. I honestly imagine like Cam Young's game, to be honest. Just like destroy it off the tee, and then you got to make your putts, as everyone does. But that's going to be the great equalizer. How dominant you can be off the tee, and then how do these greens play? Are they like comically easy?
Yep.
Who knows? Now we're going to get in to some rapid fire because we can't do make the cut, because even I would get those right at this point for obvious reasons. I do want to say, shifting gears. And when I was on the OddsChecker channel today, doing some things, you know what popped up on my feed? NFL preseason best bets with our man, Dave Lofren. And if you are going to be betting the preseason, if you are going to be playing DFS for the preseason, get on in and get our projections. Matt Kajeski and the team do a fantastic job, and we're giving them to you for $5. $5. You can find that. Use the link to claim your $5 preseason projections in the description below, or use the promo code TUA. Not sure why we're honoring the Dolphins QB, but it's TUA, Mr. Tagovailoa. You can do that. $5. It is absolutely worth it if you're playing. Great way to boost the bankroll before football season really begins. But let's get into rapid fire. And first up is our man, Aaron Wise, who I love once again. I'm just going to keep playing him. That's as simple as that. He's doing good things. He couldn't putt last week. Seems like a fine course for him.
No around the green worries. Love Aaron Wise this week. I like him in this range too. Adam Scott gained 1 million strokes putting last week. I never played Billy Horschel. Connors is kind of just like crap right now, quite frankly, or just like me, like not that great. I think Wise is definitely the player. I kind of regret not grabbing a piece of him last week, although he was kind of mediocre, like you said, with the putter, but he made the cut. He was solid. I think at this price, he's absolutely playing this range.
Yeah, I have nothing bad to really say. His putter lets him down at times, but you know what? It's a non-cut. Tee to green is good. Off the tee is stable. The price is right.
The putter a couple events ago. I'm more worried about around the green with Aaron Wise, I think, these days. But
if around the green is, and this is why we'll talk about this a little at the end with lineup construction. If around the green plays, if you think that's more important than everyone else, you should have a big opportunity to make noise this week, because you should build the skill set stack where you have guys that are good around the green and hope that is it. If that's the case, I'm in big trouble, because guys like Hovland and Morikawa, if I knew that, I would bump them way down, and I'm not doing that.
Agreed.
Yeah. Now, who do we got next on this list? We got my man Ty Hatton, who that's another one. Watch him win, because I've been on him for weeks and he's been playing pretty good, but I'm jumping off. I didn't get buried at St. Jude with him, but it was all with the putter. He's a noted Bermuda specialist, had a ton of success in Florida. I don't think taking him away from that surface is the best thing. I don't really like the spot for him.
Yeah. And again, if you are making like a contrarian lineup with like guys who are good around the green, guys good in tough conditions, Hatton's probably a good candidate, but I don't think that's how it's going to play. I don't want to tie Hatton in a birdie fest where you got to smash it, driver every hole. You mentioned the greens too. So I'm out. Not really for me. Just mentioned Wise, who I think is a way better fit this week.
Yeah. And ownership wise, it's all the same. Like him and Aaron Wise are in the same range. You're not getting 1/3 or something. So you're just choosing best available. Chad asked about Sam Burns a little while ago. I'd like to get your thoughts on him. I think of him as, Bermuda LSU guy, but he's just a putter everywhere. Great scorer. If it plays comically easy, I think that's where Sam Burns has his most success. And he was good last week. 4.5 with the approach, just couldn't really get it going on the greens.
Yeah, my only worry about Burns, and this is sometimes the worry, I'm not sure if he's. I'm still not sure on Burns. Like I feel like the longer courses aren't really going to be his thing, because I feel like he just sprays the driver too much, and that gets him in trouble. It sounds weird. It doesn't get him in trouble as much on shorter, tighter courses, because he's just so close to the green, and he's a great putter. But I feel on these longer courses, like he's only T27 at the U.S. Open. So I'm actually pretty out on Sam Burns this week. I mean, obviously I like him as a player, but I feel like I've kind of seen enough where this isn't going to be it for him long-term. You mentioned, he can putt anywhere, probably rather have him on Bermuda, but again, he's really close to Sanjay and he's $100 less than Morikawa. So that's a player I'm okay. And I'd even rather play Hovland over him this week. So yeah, I'm kind of out on Sam Burns, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I'm gonna find the money for Morikawa or Fitzy. That
range is just you could just create a lineup there.
Sam Burns is a really good player. I'll be honest, I'm not sure he's that good. Like for where is, and again, I can't stress it enough. Ownership is right there with all those guys. He's
not as consistent off the tee as a lot of the other top players. Like he does not gain like 5 strokes, like even like Sanjay. Or like, or Xander will sometimes. Like he's just not as consistent. So I think you have to get him on the right tracks. And those right tracks have been that Florida swing, some of these tricky like Colonial. I just don't think it's the right setup for him.
If and I don't see this, but if you want to go straight Firestone, when I think of Firestone, I actually think of Decky doing like truly outrageous things, but I also think of Shane Lowry a little bit. Shane Lowry's game though is all over the map. He couldn't putt at Wyndham, and then he could only putt at in Memphis. I'm not really there. I'm not adamantly against it, but where do you fall on Shane Lowry at 87?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, I don't know what he was doing at the Wyndham. Clearly, it was just like, whatever. I'm out here on the weekend. I think he thought he missed the cut, and it was like, nail it in time.
Back.
Yeah,
I can't believe he came back.
I mean, it seems like that happens every year at the Wyndham, that this happens, that it's like people leave and then come. I don't know. I think it happened to Webb Simpson once too, but anyways, yeah, last week, then he picked it up on on Bermuda. I kind of liked him for a bounce back last week. I don't know about going back to him at this point. I feel like the bigger golf course, again, like he's not that as good as the other players off the tee, but the putter showed up for him last week. So now I don't really know exactly what to think. I don't think that he's going to be heavily owned, which is nice. So, we're talking about guys who could potentially be like good leverage plays. Talking about Hatton, I'd rather play Lowry than Hatton. That's a little bit of a endorsement, I guess. So I look at him from that perspective. I'd probably rather play him than Spieth. He's had a good year. He's made it this far. I guess he bounced back a little bit last week, but he's not a player I'm necessarily going out of my way to get super exposure to. The only nice thing about him is, like you mentioned, he's basically like Spieth. You're not going to have much of him to go overweight.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not in love with the DFS play. I did look him in the betting markets 50-1. And I don't think that's the worst thing. If it just plays crazy easy though, it's just so hard for Shane Lowry to keep up. That's all. But we'll see. He's one of the lower owned in that range, and it's not a huge opportunity cost range. The mid eights is not where I'm living, as we mentioned, Spieth and those guys. Hovland is also there at 92. You mentioned that you probably would get to him over a guy like Burns. But where does he fall in terms of like him versus Sanjay? It seems like he's behind Morikawa and Cam Young for you.
Yeah, I mean, definitely I would put him behind Morikawa. The thing is, I would definitely rank him like really closely. Like I'd put him behind Young and Sanjay. Well, it's him and Young are pretty close. I really like Sanjay this week. So I would go Morikawa, Sanjay, and then like Hovland, Young. It might be just like an ownership decision. Like I just might, let the ownership decide. I think that Young's just what he's done this year. If you were just saying, well, no, I mean, like Young is clearly just so dominant off the tee, and this is going to be a great setup. I'd be fine with that too. But at the same time, Young is like a top 5 owned play projecting to be, and I think he's going to be very popular. So if you want Hovland as a bit of a pivot, I think that's fine too. I think those 4 are very close.
It is. They're going to make, I think interesting builds if you really rev up off the tee. You're going to get to a lot of those guys, and I think that's warranted. Maybe the lowest owned player before we get into like, the sixes is going to be Hideki. There's, the neck. Where has he been? Live rumor. He's got every unknown variable swirling around him. But there's also the fact that I do think that there's some things about this course that set up really well for what he does when he's in form. Is he in form, though? That's the big question.
I mean, it's like the one thing about Hideki this year is like it's like if he's in the field and he starts, like it feels like he could just go off at any time. I mean, he took time off after the Masters where he was injured, and he just came back and like popped a T3. And that's kind of just been his season. Like he's either withdrawing or he's like top 10, and yeah, I like this course for Hideki. Like, I think this is a good course for him. He's not going to have to, like the bent grass has kind of been his preferred surface as well. The Bermuda is just an atrocity for him at times.
So bad.
So, like 8, and again, like it comes down to price too. Like you look at this price, you mentioned it with Lowry. Do you think Shane Lowry can get to 2,500? No, I think Hideki could actually like win an event like that because he can just get so nuclear, right? So it's interesting. I mean, I look at him down there with Connors. I don't have a problem taking a shot on a player like this. You're getting a quality guy who can absolutely light it up. Super risky. We all know that. I mean, he's, it is what it is. It's complete boom or bust. And yeah, you could absolutely have a dead lineup with Hideki in it Thursday at 10 a.m. But I think that the upside is, if Homa wasn't there, I'd be even more bullish, but Homa is there. And so is Neiman. So I think Hideki is super interesting though. I do.
So I think really Hideki's a pretty easy evaluation. It's just a risk tolerance question for yourself. Everyone's saying the same thing. Like, oh, it's a non-cut. If you have a withdraw, it's over. Like, I can't go to that guy. He's going to withdraw. And he might. He really might if he gets off to an awful start. But if he doesn't, say he's fine, say he starts quickly, you're going to get real leverage on Hideki this week. And if you're building with a bunch of lineups, and you want to roll the dice, it's going to work out more than his ownership.
And how much more risky is playing Hideki than like Ty Hatton? Ty Hatton can finish like 67th. Ty Hatton can just be like, screw this after the second round. Like
it's the withdrawal, like, you know, and listen, I'm not one to talk. Jason Day has killed me at inopportune times with withdraws. I still think you have to really consider it because I think it sets up well. Now, what you said is a really good point. You do have big names right around him that I do like. Corey Connors is one of them. Really disappointed in how he played last week. He's 8,300. But if you're talking about Morikawa and some of those guys really excelling, Corey Connors is that type of player where he's automatic off the tee. I mean, that guy does not mess up off the tee.
No, absolutely. He's pretty much automatic, just, you know, ball striking. And I mean, again, like he made the cut last week. He saved us in that regard. So it wasn't a complete abject disaster, but really didn't play well. I thought it was a super good setup for him. I really thought that, you know, coming in off a solid week, he was going to take a step up and potentially like get himself in the mix, kind of like some of those other guys did. Didn't happen. Could be a week late. I don't know. Again, like I'd rather play him over Hatton. I think the skill set is better, like you mentioned. But I don't have a problem like taking a shot with Hideki over Connors either. Like Connors is kind of, I know why people like him, and it's a little. He's got a little bit of that like Will Zalatoris attraction to him, where he's just like so good at the ball striking, and people want him to be good, but like he really hasn't been super consistent this year. And I think that playing him over like a leverage spot like Hideki is, I don't know if it's a mistake because Hideki does carry a lot of risk, but like I'd be fine. I'm okay fading Connors. We got Wise down there too, who's cheaper. I think has very similar upside. So. Yeah, not a guy you can go back to him. I don't think it's bad or anything like that, but I'd rather play Hideki or Wise.
It's that time in the show once again, every single week. It's the what do we do with Davis Riley, your boy, who again, I have no idea now his off the tee game was just like electric. He's putting, but his irons are broke. Non-cut. Possibly super easy course. I think those are metrics I would like for Davis Riley, but I also don't really know what Davis Riley is great at.
I think he's just good at everything. I think he's just like
he's one of those.
I think he's just this like golf, you know, crazy guy who's just out there and just, you know, freewheeling it. I like watching him play. I like him a lot this week. 7,500. I think he did get it going off the tee last week, which is good. I think that it too, when I see a player starting to play well off the tee, usually means more opportunities. It usually means, you know, they're starting to get a little bit more consistent. They can build off it. I think for a young guy like Riley, that helps. And I think an easier course would be just fine for him. So you see T13 at the Memorial at Muirfield. I think that's a fairly good comparison. You know, he's got 34 birdies in his last two starts and 2 eagles. Although those 2 eagles were at the Wyndham, so whatever. But I do like him this week. 7,500 too cheap. Don't mind the way he played. And, you know, change in putting surface, that club gets going, man. I think at the very least he could put up a monster score.
So I don't know how many people have done this because I'm just doing this on the fly, but I would venture to say it's very few. Since March 20th, that's about 10 to 15 events, Davis Riley has gained 5 or more strokes in every category at some point. He had an event where he gained 5 strokes off the tee. He's had a handful of events where he gave over 5 with the approach. He had an event at Valspar where he gained 5 strokes around the green, and he's had a handful where he gained over 5 strokes putting. There's not that many guys on tour that do that, where they can spike from anywhere on any type of shot type.
Yeah, and again, like he can save you in so many ways, right? Like. I think that's part of the reason why he's starting to get more consistent with these cuts where, you know, he kind of molds to the course or, you know, he doesn't get down on all parts of his game. So yeah, super interesting player. I don't really recall a guy like that who just like spikes so randomly in every single different category. Like I don't,
Fratelli,
off the top of my head,
he's better.
I can't think of anyone really. So.
That's who I would say. I always go to him. Fratelli reminds me of that.
Oh, Fratelli. Okay. Yeah.
Davis Riley's better than Fratelli, but
yeah,
Fratelli from the clouds. Riley is the min on Yahoo. That's a good call by chat. That's a buy for sure. HV3, now we're starting to get low. We're talking about maybe last minute. He's 6,900. It's pretty simple. I've been wrong on him the last couple of weeks. I don't understand what's exactly wrong with the game. Clearly, the putter isn't doing much for us. Everything else is just blah. He's not leaking strokes really anywhere. He's just not doing anything. Non-cut, easy course, or are we saying, you mentioned this with Sam Burns. HV3 seems to thrive at the Heritage, at OHL, at the Players. This is not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I thought your HV3 call staying on him last week was smart. You don't want to give up on a player just because of one missed cut. He looked like a guy ready to break through the week before. Yep. Just nothing, like literally nothing. Just nothing. I don't. He's not great around the greens, and he's not a great putter, and it's always going to be like very inconsistent. But he can spike the ball striking, man. So I don't know. I think that you're going to get a very low in play. Like, and again, I just bring it back, like the Stokastic projections, guys. If you want to find out, where certain players are going to be and some really low in plays, they're going to be super useful for figuring out this kind of range with Harold Varner this week. So he is projecting with a little bit of ownership, which I actually find extremely surprising, but maybe he's just become a little bit popular and people are, we only have 68 man field too. So people are trying to play that bounce back, but I don't have a hard take. I could see him bounce back on an easy course. I think that if you're going overweight on him, that's fine. You're not going to have to go super crazy, but not a player I'm going to bet or anything or put serious amounts of dollars down on at this point.
Let me just ask you this. If you had a lineup and you had 6,900 left and it was him or Noren, who would you pick?
Oh, dear God.
Because Noren's there and he wasn't even.
The hell? I didn't even look what happened to Alex Noren.
No, he was just like, oh, he's 7 over.
I mean, I'm picking Noren, so
yeah, okay, that's fair. The lone suite, yeah, he a tighty +8. He had 4 doubles in 2 rounds. It was just a disaster. So, that's what you're gonna get down there, though. And now we'll get to a couple more names, and then Chad, if you got questions or whatnot. So the guy that to me is checking a lot of boxes is Cam Davis. Cam Davis is a crazy scorer, and he has been just dominating, churning out top 28th, 16th, 14th, 13th, gaining everywhere. What's not to like about Cam Davis?
Yeah, nothing. Like literally nothing. We just keep playing this guy. I don't know why I even suggested the idea we should get off him last week. There's literally nothing here. Probably the worst part of his game is around the green too. So, you worry a little bit about maybe like the Sam Burns factor where he's long off the tee, but he's inaccurate. So does that just deflate him a little bit this week? But like, I'm just done finding reasons not to play Cam Davis. I mean, seriously, like he's a great birdie maker. He's only 7,600. The rest of his game is playing well anyways. And really like off the tee has been fine. It hasn't even been that bad. So, I mean, the only reason like I'm not playing Cam Davis is because I'd rather play Davis Riley. But, I look at that range. A lot of people are going to be on Mitchell too. Like, I don't think you're going to get better ownership on Davis if I had to guess. Again, stochastic projections, guys. But that's really like the only argument. I'd just rather play Davis Riley. But I recognize both these guys I think are good plays this week.
And just to add to that, if and when you say, you know what, I want those stochastic projections, use the promo code PGA Live before lock. You're going to get 50% off. It's not just that. It's everything. All the stuff we're talking about from baseball to football to golf, college football will be here in 10 days. That is what you want to do. PGA Live before lock, all one word, stokastic.com/join. A great opportunity to do that and save some money and see the tools that Alex and the entire team have built. Now, we could save some time with Griot. I think you should play him because he's Griot and he's actually playing pretty well for a change.
Yeah, we were right last week. We said play Griot over Stallings.
Yeah, Stallings was.
Why wouldn't you go back to the well here? He's gaining like 4 strokes off the tee. Good setup, simple. We don't have to worry too much about him like sculling bunker shots. Go back to him, absolutely. And again, not a guy who's trending for any reason. People I think should be playing him at this price, but not too many people interested.
So on that note, because we're starting to get down there now, I think really interested to get your thoughts on Trey Mullinax, because Trey Mullinax was great But to me, at 6,200, he's going to be simply over-owned. That doesn't mean you can't play him. What do you do with him? Not everyone, but a lot of people are going to gravitate towards him given what we saw last week.
Yeah. And I would say probably don't. Again, it's not like a huge mistake or anything. Like, he is playing well. Obviously, I like the player. I've talked about him a few times now. Really happy that he's been able to bounce back. And I really thought when he started to make those birdies on the back nine, I thought he was gonna get in that playoff. But is really inconsistent off the tee too. And again, another guy kind of saved by just the course. Was able to avoid the water for the most part, but like put himself in some bad positions. I just don't think. I think that's going to hurt him a little bit more this week. I know it's like a simple course, but you still got to drive it semi-straight to give yourself opportunities. The approach game looks good. The putter can be like hit or miss for him. It definitely let him go down the stretch. So I just think that, we've got options here. Like, it's not like it's just Trey Mullinax that's just mispriced. It's Trey Mullinax. Yeah, he's probably should be a little bit higher, but it's Trey Mullinax around really good putters like Troy Merritt. Really good drivers too, like Brendan Steele. Tringali's down there who shows up randomly at times. Lucas Glover played well last week. There's just too many options for me to just say hop on board with like Mullinax here. He's absolutely gonna smash again. I'm just not sure that it's going to be the case. I think that he's a good player, but I think that this course could lend itself to a few other players too.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. If you're going to play Mullinax, and you absolutely can, I'd probably leave a little money on the table in those lines. You should be doing that a little anyway this week, but you want to be. People are going to end with him. A lot of people are going to double jam up top and pick Mullinax as the third, and then fill in the mid range. That'll be a really common build. And there are other guys. Brendan Steele, you mentioned. I mean, if you look off the tee, Luke List does pop out. I don't know if I can really do that, to be honest. Your boy Leishman is down here.
Ugh, he's been awful.
Is he on your? Remember our draft? Half my guys, I think, went to live.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I lost Louis, Bryson.
I had DJ.
Cam Smith is the only reason I'm not in dead DFL.
Honestly, Billy Horschel really helped me. But that is a Wyndham Clark. Someone just mentioned in chat. I honestly get it. I think that's the type of GPP your guy you want to look to, because he could be dead for last, but he also can do what he always does, which is off the tee and putting combos. You do that, you can make a lot of birdies.
I'm fine with Wyndham Clark this week. He's actually been pretty consistent. Still, the irons are what they are, but he just seems to have the rest of his game, so much confidence in the rest of his game that it almost doesn't matter that much. And, if the irons are a little bit off, the greens are a little bit bigger anyways, he's going to be sinking longer putts for you. I think Wyndham Clark is actually a pretty good fit this week. Would you play over Grillo? Actually, that's kind of an interesting, 1-for-1. I almost would. If I was in a one, say one in not the Millie Maker, but whatever the big lineup is, I would probably go with the upside of Clark over Grillo.
It's pretty close. You got this is what's tricky, because Munoz is also there, and that guy is crazy putting. But more on Bermuda. I think I give. I mean, I have to give the nod to Grillo. He's playing a little better, but I totally get what you're saying with Wyndham Clark. That's kind of an interesting build as we wind down here, of having some builds where you can do two guys in the sixes, even though mid to lower sixes, two guys up top, and then you're gonna have a lot of room in the middle to choose. You can do 30 different 2v2s. With that type of build. It seems like you're gravitating towards Neiman Homa range in the middle at Wise, those types.
Yeah. I mean, there's just too many, I do like the idea of a double build with Rahm and Thomas, but there's just too many players I kind of like with Sungjae and Neiman, who we barely even touched on. I love the setup for Neiman. I like him first round leader bets, by the way. Got a first round leader bet up on OddsShopper's article. Neiman's in it. Really good starter. And again, I think the change in putting surface is going to help him. There's just too many guys for me to love that double build. But again, if you're making 10 lineups here, for sure, I'm going to make a couple like double stacks with a Rahm and JT start. and then go like a double down on guys like we mentioned. Like I think Grillo, Wyndham Clark, Brendan Steele's a guy I'd be okay putting in this week personally. There's a lot of risk his putter doesn't show up, but off the tee, you know what you're going to get at least. So a couple different ways. Again, you're making like one lineup. You want me to force the best in? Yeah, I'm probably going to go a little bit more balanced, but I think both ways certainly attractive. But I want access to Sanjay. I want access to Neiman, and ultimately that's the way I'd lean and work out.
You're not going to Straka, right?
Dear God, no.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, I wanted to.
I did one over round in the Prize Picks video this week, and it was Sepp Straka over 70. Dude, yeah. I mean, I don't even need to tell people why. It's just like,
yeah, I mean, I don't.
He's had 3 days to think about why he's hit it in the water when Will Zalatoris was literally in an unplayable lie, and
also he gained 6 strokes putting.
Yeah, and he also just sucked for like 2 months before going crazy last week. So I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, we got a couple minutes left. We can answer a couple questions from chat. Thoughts on Cantley? We both said he's fine. He's best bent grass putter out there. Certainly. Any Taylor Moore? None for me. Just too many guys in the 6s. How important is ownership? Ownership is, in fact, very important. That is the truth, especially in a sport like PGA, because it's such high variance, and then it's a non-cut, so it's even more of a freak show. These guys are so close. They're pseudo coin flips. If one guy's 20% and one guy's 5%, if the 5% guy beats him, even half, it's the leverage you can get. It doesn't mean all the popular guys just throw them out, but you want to make sure that you have passed to victory before the tournament starts. Then you let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. And again, like to that point too, I think that really applies to guys like Mullinax when they're getting up, high in ownership. They're lower down for a reason. They're generally not as reliable players. So yeah.
Kitty, I'm at the flat min. I think that's fine. I really don't anticipate needing him. But if I was in a jam, it would be there's only a couple guys at the min. I think it would be him or List for me. Not playing Kuchar.
I'd see, and that's the other thing. And I guess I'll stray from you a bit here, but the lower down I go, I don't mind taking shots with the putters this week. Like we mentioned Noren, and I know we kind of made a joke, but I actually don't mind playing Alex Noren this week. He actually handles,
here we go.
He handles long golf courses well. He's one of the top bentgrass putters. And Mackenzie Hughes it's just a similar story. Like he made the cut last week. He started to show a little bit. So I would almost rather side with those guys down here than try and guess if like Luke List and even my guy Steele, who I mentioned, like is suddenly going to flash up. I think that Noren and Hughes, I think they may even have just like a little bit better upside because the course is long, but it's not difficult. Right. So yeah, I don't mind once you go over under 7, then you start. And Troy Merritt's another guy like that.
I mean, Troy Merritt is another true wild card. All right. I don't even know. I'll be honest, chat. We're at the hot take portion of the show. It's always a good time. It's really not a great hot take tournament because it's a non-cut. Yeah. I wanted to get creative and think of one, but I really don't have anything. I will throw out, and I want to be clear. I'm not even saying that this guy is necessarily going to play great, but there is a guy that we didn't talk about that I do have some interest in. I bet him for a top 20 at over 2-1, and it's Mito.
Yes.
And I think that Mito is trending a little upward, and his irons are so strong that if you get the right week for him, I think he could do some damage. He gained 3.5 strokes on the approach at St. Jude. That was his first made cut in a month, 2 months, really. I'm not calling for anything crazy with Mito, but if you're looking for a guy and you want to try to be early, Mito's on my betting card. And I think that Mito has some things that I do like here.
We're basically on the exact same guy here. I love Mito this week. The potential with him is through the roof. I mean, the dude just about won a major on a long, par 70 with bent grass greens. This guy won 3 times on the Korn Ferry Tour last year. He's aggressive, which I like for a course like this. The irons were popping last week. Let's get him off that stinky Bermuda where he lost like 4 strokes.
Yep.
Yeah. Top 20 is a great call. I mean, I'm playing him everywhere, like first round, top 10 win, whatever. But that's a player I'm, very high on. I think, and again, it just comes down to opportunity. Like, I just don't think that when you look at this field and with what we know the potential is, he should be like 100-1 out there or anything like that, or he should be bigger than some of these players. I think you're absolutely buying low here still. The market just hasn't really moved. So that was kind of going to be my hot take. I'm not going to lie. So we're just on Team Mito this week. I mean, I could give more egregious Alex Noren takes and why, I think he's going to finish top 5 and stuff, but I won't. I'll just say that, let's double down on Mito this week and make it a group victory.
That's what we're going to do. A group victory, chat. You see it there at the Fantasy Grind at Jazz Raz DFS. There you have it. BMW Championship in the books. Thanks again to Prize Picks. Thanks again to you guys for hanging out. Always a good time for me, for Jeff, for Tyler behind the glass. Good luck. Enjoy all the golf. We'll see who defects to live, and we'll be back next week with far less golfers to talk about. Can't wait, and we'll see you then.